Hi there. Thank you for joining me today. I am going to be sharing with you one of my favorite pieces of wisdom or favorite pieces of guidance. Some people would say best piece of advice that I've received. And this is something that can be applied to so many situations. And so it has stuck with me for the 2+ decades since I first heard it. And I was actually just sharing this with somebody the other day who was kind of thinking about a big decision in her life. And what's nice about this little piece of guidance is that it can be helpful in big decisions and also in just small choices that we make on kind of an everyday basis. So it's nice to keep it in mind. And then I'm also going to share with you just a short, simple 5-minute practice if you want to kind of take it to the next level and really apply it in a more tangible way. That's an option too. So, welcome back to the show for all of us, where I share ideas that can help you feel better in your body, mind, and spirit. I'm Sarah Moran. I'm a writer focused on health and well being. And I also do education on healthy lifestyles for groups or individuals looking for ways to um, just feel better. So I am sorry that it's been a while since I've shared an episode. I've been focused on other things for the last several weeks, but I'm very much hoping and planning to get back on track where I will share with you guys about every other week a new episode because there's a lot I want to share with you, and so I'm hoping that we'll get back to that. So, this piece of guidance for today, I'm going to take you back about 20 years. And I was a reporter at a newspaper, and the paper had like a lunchtime yoga class that employees could go to. And just a real quick tangent here, I want to stop and appreciate that that was available. I think it's really neat that the paper made something like that available and accessible and convenient for people. And those are some of the keys to anything being successful in terms of boosting our health and our well-being. And I think it's great too because, of course, then you have healthier, happier employees who are then naturally going to be more productive and do better at their jobs and let their creativity shine and all of that. So hopefully we continue to see more and more of that kind of thing in workplaces and schools and everywhere else. It's very much needed, I think, to bring us into a little more balance. So anyhow, I loved that class. And that is because the teacher, Silka, she is amazing. And she really embodied and kind of radiated the teachings and this deep knowledge and insight of yoga. And it was a really special experience for us. It felt like a transformative experience, and you would kind of walk in maybe with a busy or stressful, possibly morning, and be able to just pause and go deep with something and kind of really shift things and come out of it in a better place for the second half of the day. So I really adore the teacher Silka. And one time I asked her how she got to being a yoga teacher because how neat is that? That's a total dream job. And she, had a studio and then also went into workplaces, and you could just tell she radiated that light of somebody who's really in their element, like doing their thing and living out something that they really care about. And so when I asked her about that, she told me about a time when she was younger and she, was kind of not sure on direction and what to do in life and, where to go from where she was at. And somebody said to her, "Do what gives you energy." Or somebody was essentially asking her, what gives you energy? What energizes you? What fills you up? What lights you up? And she thought about that and was going, well, yoga gives me energy. And so she went on that track and she studied and trained to become a yoga teacher and be able to do it much of the time. And so I've always remembered that piece of guidance: do what gives you energy. And what's so great is it can guide you in so many ways, not just those big things like a career path in her case, but also with really big, or small decisions from your daily life as well. So, what we're doing here really with this question is kind of checking in with your body mind, and other questions that can guide you to the same answer would be like, what gives you a lift versus kind of a sinking feeling, or what feels open versus closed, what feels light to you versus heavy, or light versus dark, what maybe feels like radiating and an opening versus a contracting or a dimming kind of sense. And so, with all of these sorts of questions that we can pose to ourselves, we're getting into self awareness, into intuition, into being in tune with our subtle energy. All things we'll talk about in other episodes. But all of these cues really kind of tie into that greater question of what gives me energy. And it could be, like I said, little things like, should I drive this route or that route for this trip or for this outing? Maybe the scenic route just feels a little bit of a boost or energizing to you, even though it takes you longer, on a particular day. It could be about, am I going to go to this event or pass? Maybe your default is to always say yes to everything, and you realize, oh, I kind of have a contraction of energy, or I just feel actually tired when I think about doing this thing. Maybe it's not the best choice for me. That's something to think about. It could be about, do I continue investing in this relationship or this other relationship over here, or take this job or assignment or project on, or instead this other one, or maybe none at all right now. So these kinds of questions just help us gain that self-awareness, and your body and your mind and the way you react inside is a real clue, and it's your way. You have this amazing internal guidance system that will support you to make great choices for yourself. There is one caveat or other piece I'd want to attach to that, which is that if we're asking, what gives me energy, it needs to be what's giving me energy in a way that helps me to truly be me and to be present as me, not what energizes me in a way that takes me outside of myself or is like a distraction or an escape. And then also, it needs to be a genuine, sustainable energy, not like an artificially induced short term form of energy, like running on adrenaline, which is a lot of what our culture kind of entrains us to go after. So it's not the, oh, well, caffeine gives me energy, or drama, or my status, or these material things, or constantly being on the go and doing and being entertained by something or someone, and constantly being, doing all the things that are outside of me. That's more than we're running into that adrenaline rush and the more of the escape or the distraction. And again, we want what's more genuine, sustainable, deeper form of energy that helps us be just really present as our truest self. And also, by the way, if we notice ourselves doing some of that, like leaning towards some of the more artificial or the external forms of energy, the distraction, the escape, not to judge ourselves, but instead to say, yay, I noticed this is my tendency right now, and to be gentle and kind and compassionate with yourself about that. We don't need more judgment, but to acknowledge, it's really hard to be human sometimes, and so it makes sense that we might, opt into these things that we think might help us feel better. But now we have the awareness to go, in the long term, that's not actually helping me be more me, or sustaining my energy, or helping me be my truest, most, balanced present self. And so I can start to make different choices going forward from that. So and I also want to say, it can be kind of related to that, like, it's really easy to not actually know what gives you energy because there's so much programming or being kind of indirectly trained into a paradigm or various levels of indoctrination that we get from, the culture, the place we live, the mass media, marketing, advertising, TV programming, from families of origin and ancestry, religious or spiritual views, political government systems, and our education systems for sure. All of these things kind of come with some built in beliefs and assumptions and perspectives that if we don't really examine them and have time to reflect with ourselves, they may not really be what is truly beneficial for us. And we have to kind of take apart some of those belief systems and some of that programming to discover what is it really for me that helps me be my truest self. And it might look totally different than what you see in the advertisements or what you were indirectly taught in school or whatever else. So all of this comes back to true self awareness, which I cannot overstate and I talk about a lot because I think it's just the backbone of everything, totally foundational for health and well being. And so I would invite you to listen to my episode on self awareness, or there's actually two. Episode number 2, which is called My Number One Health and Wellness Tip. And then also episode number 3, which is called 10 Ways to Deepen Self Awareness. I would invite you to and highly recommend you listen to those because it is such the basis of everything else. And when when you get to being really tuned into yourself, then you have this amazing internal and higher guidance that you're tapping into for everything. So it makes life more easy in so many ways. So, and exploring, of course, what truly gives you energy and presence to be you is an amazing way to increase your self awareness. And so, the practice I would invite you to is to just take 5-10 minutes and make a list of what gives you energy, what gives you a little boost, what makes you feel your life force is running, and what makes you feel the most you. So this could be, I'm just going to list some ideas to kind of get your mind going. It could be just sitting in nature quietly or arranging flowers, gardening. It could be being part of a music group, playing your violin, doing hip hop, making candles, woodworking. Could be playing pickleball, riding your bike, kayaking. It could be spending time with animals or doing bonsai, baking bread, learning all about space, flying your model airplane, learning all about rocks and gems, doing puzzles, telling stories, all kinds of things. And I would encourage you to just write down and keep a list of, what it is that gives you energy and post it somewhere that you'll see it. It could be the back of a bathroom door, back of a bedroom door, and you can keep building on it, as you notice that something kind of gives you a boost or a lift in a sustainable way. And then I want to take you back to that story from, over 20 years ago with beautiful Silka and what she taught me. And, you know, as she said, do what gives you energy. And the point I want to make here now is that when you are truly doing that, it is also good for others. It just has a natural spillover effect. And what's happening sort of on the energetic or spiritual level is that you're bringing in more of the qualities of your soul. You're bringing in more of your spirit into your body, into your physicality, into your personality. And you are quite literally bringing in more light, and you are raising your frequency. And that's something that, again, we can talk about more, but it does radiate out and affect others in a positive way ultimately. And so you're more on purpose with your life when you're following that internal guidance of what is energizing you. And again, purpose being so much more than career. So Silka, amazing yoga teacher, amazing human being, because she's following that inner guidance system, and she followed what gave her energy, got into the teaching of yoga, and probably just as much as what she was actually teaching us, which was so deep and wonderful and lovely, was just her presence and how she was just rating that out by being herself. She's being her, her truer self. And and then the yoga, of course, again, it gave us a chance to pause, to reflect, to reset, to think about things differently. It was empowering and healthier bodies and minds, energy fields, the whole thing. And all of these benefits to other people that she had in that class and wherever else she has gone and done over the last 20 years, um, all of that is because she's following her energy. All of the positive effects on other people is because she's following that internal compass and what lights her up. So I think she's a really great example. And it reminds me of one of my favorite quotes, which is by Howard Thurman. And the quote is, "Do not ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive and go do it. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive." I'm going to say that one more time. Howard Thurman. Do not ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive and go do it. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive. And so, again, to wrap this up, what I'm inviting you to do is ask yourself, what gives me energy? What gives me a genuine, sustainable energy that supports me to be my truest self? And also note that this can change with time. So just kind of be aware and see how that might shift. By the way, I titled this episode about the best piece of wisdom with the number 1 after it because although this is one of my favorite pieces of guidance, I'm sure that there will be others that will come up that I'll want to share that will be also favorites. So I'm thinking this is probably number 1, but more to come at some point. So thank you so much again for listening. And for those of you who watch or watching, I hope this gives you something helpful to think about or sit with, and consider doing that little 5-minute practice. And I also hope that you'll tell any friends you think might find this information as a contribution to their lives. And the show is for all of us. It's free on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. And please follow, subscribe, turn your notification on, like or rate the show. It gives me helpful feedback, but it's also a thing that makes it more likely that other people will come upon the show. And next time, I think I might be sharing with you some of my thoughts on the state of the world and kind of my take or framing of it, which I hope will be helpful for you for the times that we're in and the times that are ahead. So, till then, I hope you take good care. Thanks again. Bye bye.